I'm Ron Jackson with acoustic guitar. And in this weekly workout, we're going to talk about the big boss himself, George Benson, and his picking technique. Now, George Benson is one of the most flawless guitar players I know with picking and left-hand technique. A child prodigy himself, George was one of these guys that was a natural talent and developed his own style of picking. I discovered his music back in the late 70s, early 80s when I was in high school. And he played, this record that he had called Breezin', which is his best-selling record, had some amazing picking technique and chops that I never heard on guitar before, for jazz guitar particularly. At that time, I was using a really small guitar pick, a small little Jim Dunlop guitar pick, and I could never get enough speed with my picking. And that took quite a while until I was about, in my mid-20s, I was about 24, 25 when I moved to New York, and I took a lesson with this great guitar player named Rodney Jones, who was actually teaching at the Manhattan School of Music at the time. Now he's a chair at Juilliard in New York City here. And he hit me into George's technique. And I actually had hung out with George in Europe before, because I was living in France, in Paris for a little while, and I hung out with George and I saw his technique, but most of the time he also plays very well with his thumbs, so I couldn't really see his picking technique. But so Rodney really hit me to that, and there's a lot of interesting secrets about the way he plays with his pick. And this weekly workout, I'm going to be showing you his picking style and how you can apply this to any kind of acoustic guitar, from an arch top to a nylon string to a steel string, which I'm actually holding here, okay? Now, most of the time when you play with George's technique, he uses mostly flat wound strings that are actually ground down flat, particularly depending on the thickness of the string. The third, fourth, fifth, and sixth strings are actually smoothly ground down, okay? Round wounds are usually found on acoustic steel string instruments and nylon, because they're much brighter. So when we're going to be talking about holding the pick, you're going to see that if you can get some strings, are like some of my strings here are actually semi-flat, okay? So you'll get less scraping sound, because we're going to be using this picking technique where George actually turns his pick to the side. So let's get started. Week number 1. Benson supposedly developed his picking style by sitting in a cramped car or a bus while he was touring around as a young man. And he developed his picking technique. He would actually hold the pick at this 60 to 90 degree angle, depending on how much you can risk the tolerance of pain bending your hand at this angle. Some guitars take their pick at this angle to get less resistance against the string, okay? But George held it this way, okay? And when you actually hold your pick at an angle, it's particularly with the strings that are not wound, like your first and second and third strings, depending on the thickness of your string. There's less resistance when you're actually picking this pick at an angle compared to this angle. Listen. When you pick straight at the string, parallel to the string like this, there's a lot more resistance. And I used to have that problem when I was using a smaller pick and playing at a different angle, at the straight angle, okay? At this angle, I have a lot more speed, okay? We're gonna start off with some exercises with open strings, so you can use your pick hand, well, in my case, which is my right hand, to play open strings, okay? And get used to picking at that strange angle that no one's used to, that George actually developed, okay? Now, when you pick the string, your pick should be almost perpendicular like this, okay? So if you can see that on in photo number 1 or picture number 1, okay, in the magazine here. So in the beginning, the position will seem very unnatural, because when I started playing, it was really painful and I was not used to it. But when you start working on it, you'll get it once you practice for a while. I eventually got used to this angle, and now it seems natural, okay? Now, the trick to playing the alternate pick method, okay, in example number 1, is to make sure your wrist is relaxed and your pick is doing most of the work, okay? See how loose I'm holding the pick? We're going to be essentially hitting 16 notes in example number 1. Also, you can use this as a tremolo exercise too. You can go fast as you can, like that. And see how my pick is nice and loose, that the pick is mostly doing the work. Okay. We're going to start this example off with 60 beats per minute going across the string, okay? All 6 strings. Your goal is to eventually just practice on one string at a time if you want to get used to this, and then go across all 6 strings using this exercise or any kind of exercise you like to do, you make up yourself. Okay, you try experimenting with different variations and skipping strings as well as a good exercise for this, okay? So let's do example number 1. Here we go. I'm gonna actually use a metronome so you can see what kind of tempo we're gonna use on this one, okay? Here we go. Example number 1 with the metronome at 60. 1, 2, 3, 4. You notice how I stop the string right after with my left hand so that it doesn't ring? After each string, I would actually literally stop the string. Okay? Now, in example number 2, we're going to be focusing on each string. Okay, 4/16 notes per string going down the neck, or up the neck actually, going down in pitch with the bigger strings. Okay? Like this. You can practice this direction and downward direction toward the treble strings, okay? Or the thinner strings. Now you can make up your own exercises for this too. You know, try jumping 3 strings or more, etc. Say from the 1st to the 5th string. Here's example number 2 at the metronome marking of 60. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, in example number 3, we play between 2 adjacent strings using 8th note triplets. Now, 8th note triplets sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are 3 exact notes on each beat. Dot, 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 okay? So, each beat starts with a sweep, okay, like this. 2 sweeps down, okay? And then an upstroke. So I'm going between the B and E string. So I'm going to go. And this. Now you notice, if I'm doing the sweep real slow, I hit the first sweep down. I'm actually resting on the next string, but it's very brief, okay? The rest is very brief. It's a rest stroke if you want to call it that way. And then when I hit the upstroke, I try to make sure that after the second sweep that I'm close as possible to the string, so I execute the upstroke right after. Like that, okay? Once you get used to this, you'll be able to play much faster sweeps, okay? Example number 3, at 60, quarter note tempo. 1, 2, 1, 2. Good. So make sure you practice that exercise as fast as you can too. Like that, okay? Week number 2. George Benson is a master of playing arpeggios with sweep picking. Continuous pick strokes that allow you to play rapid bursts of sound. Now, example number 4 depicts a major 7th shape, which looks like this on the guitar. Your fingers are like this, 4, 3, 2, 1 across strings 4, 3, 2, 1. And in example number 4, we start with a G flat major 7 shape, okay? The root is actually on the 4th string. G flat or F sharp, you want to call it. Okay, now in this exercise, in number 4, we're going to be doing the shape up the neck as far as you can reach, okay? We're going to go like this. If we're going to play as a chord, you're going to go like this. Etc., okay? Now you keep the shape for the duration of this figure. Now while you're sweeping the strings with a single pick stroke, lift each fretting finger just slightly so it doesn't ring over to the next note like this. You could do that where you can lift up too like this. I prefer to keep the fingers down because when we're gonna go faster, you're gonna need to actually move as quick as possible to the next fret, okay? Like that. Okay, etc. So we're gonna actually use this pick stroke, and it's gonna be all downstrokes for this exercise, okay? So let's try this at a little faster tempo, like 80, because these are 8th notes now. Example number 4, metronome set at 80. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you see how I kind of separated each note? Now if you start doing this faster, it's going to sound like this. Okay? If you start doing this faster, it should sound like this. Like that, okay? Now, in example number 5, we're going to actually go the opposite direction with upstrokes. And you notice how my pick is set at this angle? Like in example number 2B, the photo you see. It'll be like that. Okay? So, with example number 5, we're going to actually do this with continuous upstrokes. And make sure you keep your pick at that 90-degree angle, but you see how it's shifting this way when you pick up, okay? Here's example number 5, metronome set to 80. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, when you're playing all these exercises and you're doing the sweep, that you rest on each string right after you hit it. And backwards too, or the upstroke. See how I'm resting on each string? So when you actually execute the sweep, it's going to be really fast when you pick, and you're going to have most of the control with your right hand, or your picking hand, excuse me, in my case, my right hand. Like that, you see that? In example number 6, we're going to expand on Benson's sweep picking technique, okay? We're going to use both the downstroke and the upstroke this time. Now you notice how you pick angles when you do each sweep. In examples 2A and 2B, like I showed you before, okay? So when we start this off, you're going to do the arpeggio like this, the G flat major 7, then the G major 7 arpeggio going up. Look at my pick at the same. Okay. Here's example number 6, metronome set to 80. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you're practicing these major 7 arpeggios or major 7 shapes, you can actually practice them across the fingerboard too. You can use the same shape if you want. It'll be a different kind of arpeggio. This is more of a major 7, sharp 5 arpeggio, and this one is an augmented arpeggio if you go across, okay? Okay, so your goal now is to play that exercise and all these exercises fast. Backwards. Now I have a cutaway, I can go. Depending on how far you can reach, I can reach all the way up here, but you can do that across 4 adjacent strings all across the fingerboard. You can make up different finger exercises too, like this. You can switch the fingers around. You can do 3 strings at a time. These are some cool ways to practice this technique, okay? Etc. Okay? So now, example number 7, we're going to do the same exercise, but now we're going to actually go up in minor thirds from G flat major 7 to A major 7 to C major 7 to E flat major 7. A minor third is actually 3 fifths away. 1, 2, 3, 1, 3 frets away to the A, etc. Okay, to C, to the E flat. Example number 7, metronome set to 80. 1, 2, 3, 4. After you master this exercise a little bit with the major 7s, make up your own kind of sweep phrases as well, using minor and dominant 7th arpeggios as well, okay? Week number 3. Now we delve deeper into Benson's sweep picking via some of his key licks, which are easiest to play on the unwound strings of your acoustic guitar, so which are usually your first 3 strings. In my case, it's the first 2, but we're going to be using my 3rd string as well. Okay, example number 8 is a really cool lick that George uses, and a lot of jazz guitar players use actually. It's actually a D minor arpeggio, and it descends symmetrically down in whole steps. Each arpeggio starts with a downstroke on the chord's 9th. So it looks like this, actually, this shape. If you see a D minor 9 chord, here's a D minor chord. And if you take your 4th finger off and you play your 12th fret of the 1st string, looks like that. Okay? But we're only going to use the top of the first 3 strings. So we're going to start on the 9. Okay? So what you're going to actually do is you're going to hit the 9, okay, with a downstroke. And you're going to hit the rest of the arpeggio, which is the D, A, and F, with an upstroke. Now this lick is really, I wouldn't say easy to execute, but once you get it, you'll feel that with your picking hand that you're not going to have any kind of tension playing this arpeggio or this lick. Really smooth once you get it together. Okay, so you can hit the 9. So it's going to be a downstroke on the 9 on the beat, and then a triplet on the 2nd beat, 3rd, 4th, etc. Doing the same exercise. Like that, go down in whole steps, okay? Here's example number 8. Metronome set to 80. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that sounds really good if you speed up the tempo too, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or you just use a lick as a fast lick phrase like this. Like that, okay? In example number 9, we're going to use an upstroke first on the D, which is the 5th of the minor chord of a G minor, okay? Like this. Then we're going to use a downstroke to play the rest of the arpeggio, which is just a G, B flat and D, 1 flat 3 and 5. Like that. You could practice that exercise on the same strings over and over too, instead of descending, just to get used to it. So this goes down in whole steps or 2 frets as well, this exercise, okay? Example number 9, metronome set to 80. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you can practice that exercise too fast, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Or even faster, 1, 2, 3, 4. Some of these exercises are actually easier to play faster once you get used to them, okay? Now you see how the pick is actually doing most of the work now? Once you get used to it, you'll be able to get your picking technique up to that tempo. In example number 10, you'll find arpeggios with the C major scale, starting with an upstroke preceded by a sweep down the top 3 strings, okay? Try to play this figure up the neck as far as you possibly can on the guitar, depending on your cutaway. I have a cutaway here, and some guitars don't, obviously, okay? Some acoustics have no cutaway. So, actually, this is the C major scale and all the diatonic chords, which are in the actual key of C. All the natural chords that fall on each arpeggio. So it would be C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished, and C, okay? I have a cutaway so I can reach up here actually very easily. So you're gonna actually hit an upstroke and then hit 3 downstrokes with a sweep. Like that. And you're gonna play that lick up the neck, okay? Here's example number 10, metronome set to 80. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that lick can be played very fast too once you get used to it, because your picking hand will seem like it's very easy to play once you really get the hang of the looseness of the picking style like this. If I play it faster, it sounds like this. Now you can practice that descending as well. So practice it both ways, and you can actually skip in thirds. Like that means coming from the C to the E minor to the D minor, like this. Etc., okay? Or backwards. Okay? So that was example number 10 and week number 3. Week 4. Now we're going to tackle some of George Benson's signature pentatonic runs. Now these are great for developing your pick hand technique, not to mention adding some cool excitement to your playing by playing some, playing a repeated lick, which sounds really cool to the audience particularly. Each example is based on the A minor pentatonic scale, which I think almost every guitar player knows. It's the 5th fret, the A, C, D, E, and G. So it's A, C, D, E, and G notes, okay? In this position, 5th position, 5th fret. Okay? Remember to play all the notes on the 5th fret with using your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fingers, just like I showed you. Basically, you match the frets in that 4th fret area right here, okay, with your fingers of your left hand, or your fretting hand actually, depending on if you're left-handed or right-handed. So In example number 1, we actually play just a 4-note lick, which is a C to A, G to an E. And you just repeat that lick with downstroke, with a down and upstroke, which is alternate picking. You hear George Benson doing this a lot in some of his licks. Like that, okay? So let's play example number 11 at the metronome marking of 60 using, remember, the pick angle that we've been doing the whole time too, okay? Here's example number 11, metronome marking 60. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're doing that real slow, but your goal is to get that speed to go up like this. I would practice it slow like that, tempo 60, and then gradually build the speed up like this. To even play it faster, you can use your first and third finger. Okay? You can break the rules a little bit once you know the proper fingering, actually. Remember, you learn the rules first and then you break them later. That's what we learned in college. Okay, so now example number 12, we're going to actually descend down the scale in 4-note groupings, okay? Now this can be strenuous on your left and right hand, but this is a really good exercise to practice. It will look like this. Okay? So here's example number 12 in 4-note groupings, descending, which looks like it's going up the guitar neck. Here's example number 12, metronome marking 60. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're playing that pretty slow, but now your goal is to build up the speed like this. And faster and faster. Okay, so you can actually, depending on your tempo and speed, you can practice these minor pentatonic 4-note runs using alternate picking, or where possible sweeping, because George actually mixes these things up actually. So, depending on how I feel the phrase of my picking hand, I'll play a sweep or alternate, okay? Now, example number 13. We're gonna do the same thing, but now we're gonna go in the opposite direction. We're gonna start in the E, and do 4-note groupings descending. Looks like it's going up the neck in this direction, in the air, okay? Like that. Okay, etc. Example number 13, metronome marking 60. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was example number 13. So remember, you can mix all these up in different groupings too. Like you can do 3 notes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You can do 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going down the scale or up. Like that, okay? Or 3 notes. Or 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. You can count out loud too to make sure you're actually playing 5-note groupings, okay? Going up the scale one at a time. You can skip, you can do all kinds of things. Now that we completed this weekly workout, you're gonna see how your picking technique is really improved and that you're gonna have a lot more speed. And you'll be able to use this on all your acoustic guitar adventures. You'd be surprised how it really has enhanced your playing, okay? I'm Ron Jackson with Acoustic Guitar. I hope you enjoyed this weekly workout, and I'll leave you with this.